Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. If you're a first-time viewer, thank you. If you are a previous subscriber, a new subscriber, or you are coming from a previous video you've just viewed on my channel, welcome back. In today's video, we will be progressing with part 2 of the In the Hoop embroidery wallet design. If you have not viewed part 1, please refer to that video because that is going to provide the link in the description box for the Etsy seller where you can purchase the design from. You will have to purchase the design in order to get the stitch out files. I am not able to share those with you. There is no way to share those unless you purchase the design. So you will have to purchase that in order to get those to put that stitch out design into your embroidery machine. Okay, hope that makes sense. Okay. The seller's name is, I believe it's Imilova. It's capital I-M-I-L-O-V-A Designs. And again, you can find that on Etsy. I will have the link to her store in the description below. We're going to go ahead and proceed with part 2 of this video series, which will be hooping your stabilizer and constructing your first part of the wallet. So what you're going to do when you do purchase your design is you're either going to print out all your directions or you're going to be viewing them on a computer screen. And I highly recommend that you do that. Either printing them out or following along on your computer. And the reason why I say that is because when I first started this project, I failed to read ahead in the design steps, and I made some really time-consuming mistakes and experienced some mistakes that made me waste product. So when you do purchase her design and you print it out, before you print it, you will see that there is a video link that you can click on to watch the video, and that's going to show you, it's not going to show you the actual stitch out, but it is just going to kind of show you the construction of the wallet. There is no sound in that video, but it's going to give you an idea of how it was constructed and some of the steps that she does do. So I definitely recommend you looking at that. Also, in my first video, I link another video that I have done a couple weeks back. And that was a video titled that being overconfident can lead to mistakes. And the reason why I did that video is because when I was doing this project, I made those time-consuming mistakes and wasting the product. And that was mentioning that being overconfident, thinking that you know what you're doing, can lead to those mistakes. And even the best of us can make mistakes that we just think we know what we're doing, and you can just overlook something really easily. And that's definitely what I did. So that's where I say follow along with either your printed instructions or your instructions on screen if you are following along on a laptop or tablet, whatever. Read 2-3 steps ahead. I would recommend read through the complete file that you're going to be working on, and There are 5 different files in this design, and each file is for a particular stitch out section of the wallet. The wallet basically consists of 4 files. The 5th file is if you want to do some different types of pockets. File 5 is for either 2 zipper and 1 slot, like these ones, the little slot pockets for your cards. These would be, the file number 5 tells you how to do those different ones. And again, make sure that you read ahead through your designs. Okay, so enough of that. We are going to go ahead and get into it. When you print out your instructions, I would recommend printing out your file steps, and the first page has all 5 of them on the page, and we are going to be doing file 1 today, and we're going to be constructing these arc pieces, which are these right here. And in my first video where I talk about the mistakes and everything and being overconfident, I talked about some of those mistakes I made, and I will show you those mistakes as we're going along. So what you're going to first want to do, I'm going to go ahead and set this aside. In her instructions, she tells you to hoop either a water-soluble or a tearaway stabilizer. And for this first step, I am going to be using the tearaway stabilizer, and I am using a double layer, so 2 pieces, and that's just going to give me a little more structure in this portion. When I first did the stitching where I made mistakes, I also realized that the water-soluble stabilizer was going to be a little more flimsy, and I just wanted a little bit more structure in the design. So that is why I'm going with the tearaway stabilizer. And I'm just using the Pellin Stitch and Tear Stabilizer. It's 806. And I get this by the roll at Walmart. It's really inexpensive. It's 15 inches by 3 yards. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy an off-brand on Amazon. I use water-soluble stabilizer that I purchased on Amazon. I do have tearaway stabilizer, and I have cutaway stabilizer that I purchased on Amazon. So there's many different brands, whichever one you prefer to use. Okay, so I have went ahead and I have hooped my stabilizer, and in my test project that I did and then learned from all the mistakes and everything, I also learned that the hoop size that I need for this project is going to be a 260 by 200 hoop. I did try to use a 240 by 150, and it told me that the design was out of frame or out of hoop, or out of this particular hoop was just too small. So depending on what type of machine you have, it may tell you out of frame, it may tell you out of designed field. Yeah, it just depends on what your machine tells you. Okay, so then what you're going to do is you are going to, we're going to hoop your tearaway. I am going to go ahead and pause here before we proceed with the next steps. I need to go ahead and attach my embroidery unit to the machine and thread the machine. I would recommend that you prepare several bobbins ahead of time. I went ahead and have done 4. I have the 3 here and 1 in the machine, and these are just my little clips that I put on the bobbins to hold them from unraveling. So give me just a moment. I'm going to adjust the camera to in front of the machine so you can see everything I'll be doing, and I will be right back. Okay, so where I left off last time, I was telling you that I was going to attach the embroidery unit and move the camera so it was at the machine. And I had done all that, and I had some kind of issue. Sorry, I'm facing away from the camera right at this second. I had some kind of issue pop up with the machine, and I don't really know what exactly happened, and I'm trying to find all the pieces that I can show you. It started tearing the stabilizer, and you can see that here. When I started the stitching, it started tearing it. So I went ahead and changed the needle, and I was thinking that maybe the needle was bad. So I went ahead and did that, and then I started it down here again, and you can see that it started skipping stitches. And then when I took it out, I noticed that there was a whole bunch of really weird, bad thread loops back here. So I stopped everything, and I adjusted. I took the bobbin out, I removed the bobbin, and put it back in, thinking that I had it in wrong, rethreaded the machine, and started again, and it started tearing again. So I made sure my needle was in correctly, I threaded everything, started over again, and it started doing some missed stitches and tearing stabilizer for the second time. So I took all that out of the hoop, and as you can guess, at this point I was starting to get really frustrated. So I said, you know what? Maybe it's just not going to work with that stabilizer today. Maybe it's a brand new roll of stabilizer. Maybe it just doesn't like it. So I tried to switch to a water-soluble stabilizer. And I didn't even make it 10 stitches when it ripped. And you can see that there. So I said, okay, something is really wrong, because that's 3 times. I can't figure it out. I took everything off, took the embroidery unit off, took all the thread off the machine, took the bobbins out, and I made sure that I didn't have an aftermarket bobbin, and I actually used a authentic FAF bobbin, rethreaded the bobbin, put a brand new bobbin in there, put a brand new needle in again, rethreaded everything, and I said, you know what, before I do that, I'm going to take everything apart down underneath the needle plate. And I went and I got, what's it called? Like a hex head screw bit to take the little screws off that are underneath the needle plate. And when I went to go do that, I noticed that one of the screws was loose, and I'm wondering if that could have been the problem. So I went ahead and I took the other screw out, and while I was doing that, I kind of like cleaned up underneath of it, and I took the needle or the thread cutter off and cleaned that really good, put it all back on, put those 2 screws back on, tightened everything down, put the needle plate and the bobbin, all that stuff back together like it's supposed to be. And I'm not sure what happened. I put the new needle back in, the foot back on, rethreaded the machine, and I put back the tearaway stabilizer. It's hooped really well. And I started doing the test stitch, and it's stitching. So I don't know what happened. It could just be possible that maybe that screw was loose, or there was some lint in there that somehow I got out with all that. And so we're going to go ahead and continue this stitching. And I am going to pray that this continues stitching well. We are doing the placement stitch. So let's go ahead and hopefully this continues stitching without tearing our stabilizer. For those of you that sew a lot, you will know that sometimes your machine can be a diva and just from one time work and then from the next time it won't. It has been off for a couple weeks, so maybe I hurt her feelings. I don't know what happened, but she just did not want to work. Okay, so there we go. That did our placement stitch. I am going to go ahead, and our next step is we are going to take the hoop off, and I'm going to tilt us out a little. And I'm going to pause the camera so I can adjust a little bit to show you what I'm going to do, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I adjusted a little bit more so you can kind of see over here what I'm going to do. Now what I need to do is I need to go ahead and take the hoop off. Lift that up and clip I forgot to cut my thread, so we're going to do that. And we are now going to attach the fabric, and that will be, let me get our papers here. I set them aside. Okay, so what we just did is, sorry, I'm a little out of whack here after doing that. I was getting really frustrated. Okay, so what we've done is we have stitched our placement stitch, and if you're going to use spray away stabilizer or spray basting spray, quilt basting spray, you'll spray a little bit on, and you're going to place your lining on the hoop right side up, and you can fix it with adhesive tape or of course your quilt basting spray. So we are doing the inner portions. So what I will be doing is I will be using my butterfly fabric. If you remember on the first section, I was saying that the purple is going to be for my outside of the wallet. Clip this thread again over here. Okay, so I'm not going to use quilt basting spray, and I'm going to tell you why. When I was doing my first stitch outs, my machine was doing all kinds of errors and things like that, and I was getting thread nesting again, things like that. Excuse me. So I decided for this particular project I was going to stay away from quilt basting spray, and actually on this piece I did use quilt basting spray. Where I started experiencing the issues was in the next section. So before I get too far ahead, I'm not even going to talk about the quilt basting spray. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to tape, and now I seem to have lost my tape. There we go. And get this started. I am going to, you just need to make sure that your fabric covers your placement stitch, and I'm just going to put a little bit here and there. Make sure we stick okay. And it's just to hold it in place. The next stitching is going to definitely tack that fabric down. So you're going to put your fabric on the front, like so. So we're going to put it on the front. And I just got some here and here. I'm going to put some on the sides as well. I am experiencing some winter allergies, and my eyes are just really itchy. So I'm just gonna put a quick piece there. And this project, like I mentioned before, is time consuming, and it's because you have to take the hoop off, you have to put it back on. There's a whole bunch of different things that you have to do. Okay, so now I've got it attached to the front. I'm going to take my second piece of lining and I'm going to attach it to the back. And I just want to make sure that I do get it kind of lined up with the first piece of fabric on the front. That way I know all my placement line is covered. And you can hold it up to the light to make sure that you kind of got it aligned okay. And I'm going to just tape this one as well. You can use your glue stick for this, whatever you prefer to do. I had on my first, on the test one project that I did, the masking tape I was using was, I guess it was old and it wasn't sticking. So I had to make sure that I was able to find some other masking tape, and it seems to be working better. Because when I did have it on the back side here, and the stitching started, my tape was sticking to the bed of the machine, and it got caught up in the stitching. But I was able to get it removed. Okay, so I have it lined all taped around the edges. So now I'm going to put the hoop back on the front side, and I'm just going to make sure that that tape is really nice. So I'm just going to kind of like rub my fingers along that to make sure that it does get taped well. I don't want to have any like really huge creases or anything in my fabric, of course. Okay, so I've got my fabric attached to the front. I've got the fabric attached to the back. So now what we're going to do is we are going to stitch our next color. And in the machine, it shows a completely different color. And if you remember, I told you about she has the different colors for when you're assembling the wallet at the end. It's just a guideline to help you place your stitching. So, but she does say in, I believe it's on, let me show you the page. So as let me move us back out. As we're going through our directions, we've got it where we've turned it over and we put the fabric on the back, and you go to stitch color 2. She will tell you before you go to color 3 that she divided those colors up, and it's just so you can see the folding lines easily when you go to assemble it, but you can make embroidery all in one color. So that is definitely what I am doing. Hopefully there's not a lot of confusion right now because of those errors that were occurring. I'm going to go ahead and start the stitching. I'm going to make sure that everything looks good. There's nothing underneath. Okay, let's go ahead and start. Where's my thread tail? I like to hold my thread tail just, whoops, sorry about that. I keep forgetting. I'm so used to moving over to the front of the machine when you start sewing that I hit the camera when I have it in this position. But I'm going to go ahead and tilt you forward so you can see what's going to happen. And I got that little, okay, so I got my thread tail. I'm going to go ahead and start the stitching. And I know this will be a little bit harder to see because I am using such a light purple. I'm going to stop and I'm going to trim that thread. Okay, and my stitching is not in the fabric, so I think what my problem is I trimmed my bobbin thread too low. So I'm going to just kind of go back and I'm going to remove my hoop. Make sure my bobbin is good. And sometimes that happens when you are trimming your thread. You might trim your bobbin thread just a little too low and it just won't pick up the bobbin thread. Not a problem. Just remove your hoop and my machine is definitely being feisty. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back to that starting position. Fix that fabric right there. I'm just having to kind of adjust it here and there because I am not wanting to use that quilt basting spray. I'm telling you, I had such a hard time with it last time. And again, I will explain when I get to that step on what was happening. I was just, I was using, I think, too much. And the machine was sticking. It was gumming up my needle. And it just, yeah, I was having so many problems that I decided that it just was not the best thing to use for this particular project. Okay, so let's start again. Okay, our stitches are staying. I'm going to pause for a moment to cut my thread tail up here at the top. I'm going to go ahead and let this stitch so you can see what's going on. And it is a little hard to see, like I was saying, because of the color match. I have the thread basically matching, but you can see the stitching here that it is doing that arc. And then it's going to, let me show you here, it is stitching these lines now. Back over and it will complete this part. Now it's going to start sewing the second arc or the second semicircle. And again, I realize, I know that's really hard to see, but I mean, you can see part of it. I really like the lighter thread I'm using on it this time compared to the darker thread. I'll tell you, when I was experiencing those issues with the thread and the tearing of the stabilizer, I know my stabilizer was hooped well, so I wasn't sure what was happening. So maybe in the combination of the needle, rethreading it, the different bobbin, tightening that screw, making sure everything was clean underneath, that fixed the problem. Okay, so now it is wanting us to change to another color, and that color is just going to be, I will tell you here, it says we just finished doing stitch color 2, and now we are going to go to stitch color 3. But before we do that, let's see, you're going to stitch color 3, then you're going to cut excess fabric. So now we're going to do the stitch color 3, and I think that's going to do a zigzag stitch. So let's go ahead and start that. And that's going to basically build up the stitching for the satin stitching, which will be this portion. But before you get to this portion, you're going to remove it from the hoop, or you're going to remove the hoop from the machine, and you're going to trim away excess fabric. And when I did my first piece, I'll show you here. When I did this, I forgot to cut my fabric off before I did my satin stitch, and it was going to leave a raw edge along the stitching, and it makes it for a really sloppy look. So this is where I tell you to make sure you read your steps in advance so you know to remove the hoop and cut your excess fabric. So you're going to cut your, before you start that final 4th color, if you're using the same color, before you start your 4th stitch out, you are going to remove the hoop and cut away the excess fabric from the front, and you're going to do the back. So when this finishes this zigzag portion, we will remove the hoop and trim that fabric away. So we're going to the next arc, half circle. And this part right here that it's stitching right now, hopefully it's not really super wobbly, but it's just doing kind of almost like a basting stitch, where you're going to stitch the layers together when everything is finished. It's for the assembly portion. So we got 1 more minute on this one. Then I'm going to remove the hoop. I'm telling you guys, definitely read ahead so you don't experience the problems that I did and waste a lot of product. A lot of fabric, a lot of stabilizer, your time. The little hiccup that I had there at the beginning with tearing the stabilizer, that could have just been as simple as the bobbin being incorrectly threaded or wound. Okay, so now it finished with this portion. I am going to make sure the thread is cut. Okay, I'm going to remove the hoop and we're going to trim our excess fabric. Okay, so it did not cut that one, which is fine. You can see some of the jump stitches, and as I trim the fabric, I will be removing those. So I am going to pause the camera and I will be right back. Okay, so I have all of the excess fabric cut off. I did it off camera because it's just a little bit easier and save some time for the video. You want to make sure that when you cut it off, you leave the tabs down here. So where you got your straight stitch line, that you leave the tabs from there to there, and same on both sides. And you're going to need those tabs later when you're sewing it to the body of the wallet. So you can see that when I trimmed it, I got it as close as possible to that zigzag stitch as I could. And you can see that I did pretty good on that. And that is where I made the mistake on the first time I made it. I did the wallet, that I failed to cut the fabric off. And now our next step is going to cover that cut edge and make it look really nice. So we're going to go ahead and attach it back into the frame. And I'm going to show you the scissors I use. These are just an old pair of Fiskars, and I really like the sharp point of them. I'm able to get the cuts really well, and then to get really close to the stitching, I use little just hand embroidery scissors. You can see that they do have a little bit of curve to them, but I'm able to get right up against that stitch line and cut the fabric without cutting the stitching. You can buy regular applique scissors that have, they're curved, and they kind of, let me just see if I can find you a picture while this is stitching. Let's go ahead and get it to stitching. This is going to be our last color, and I'm going to go ahead and start, and it is going to start doing the satin stitch now. So this is going to take some time. We're going to go ahead and start. I'm going to go ahead and trim that. And I'm going to bring up my picture here that I can show you what applique scissors look like. Okay, so this is what applique scissors look like. See how they got this really weird bend in them? If you're not familiar with them, it lets you cut closely, but be away from your hands are kind of away from the fabric and the stitching. So they're supposed to be really good for, of course, applique and things like that. So I will be investing in a pair of those soon. Okay, so this is going to take 8 minutes. I'm going to pause the video and let it continue stitching, and when it is finished, I will come back. Okay, so it just finished doing the satin stitch on both half circles. I'm going to go ahead and take it off the machine and out of the hoop. I guess off was out and off combined. Okay, and that is the back. It looks really nice and neat. I just have a couple threads to clip, and I'm going to adjust the camera, and I will be right back. Okay, so I have the camera readjusted to our overhead view. I'm going to go ahead and remove the hoop. And I'm really pleased with the way this has turned out. The first time I did it, I was so disappointed, and I was getting very discouraged with this project. And I'm actually really glad that happened. And the reason why is because I know I'm better. I know I'm capable of better work than what I had done. And this actually shows that you can make mistakes, but don't let those mistakes discourage you. So, like I was showing you earlier, how my mistake was here. I failed to cut my fabric away, as you can see, and it would have left those ugly edges. And now you can see that those cut edges are covered. There are some loose little threads here, but you are able to trim those away, and it's going to be easier to hide those stitches because I did use the lighter thread and it looks really pretty. I think I like this better than I do the first one. And I'm going to tear away this paper really gently. And I've got the tape still here on the back. Let me move that. So I'm just using my hands. I'm not going to cut. I'm just going to tear away. And a little thread there. And that is our first piece torn away. I'm going to go ahead and move this piece. And there are the little threads that I need to remove. You can see there's a little bit of fuzzing. Let me stand up a little bit so you can see that. There is a little bit of fuzzing on the edges, but I will be able to go over that with my finger. Wet my finger and go over that, and it'll help hide that little fuzziness from the stabilizer. So there's that first piece, and you can see how pretty that stitch looks. And this will be that back side of it. And you still want to keep these tabs on, like I mentioned before. These will help you to sew it to the body of the wallet. So I'm going to go ahead and sit back down and remove this second piece. And you can just tear it right up to that straight stitch line. And get that one back out. And Luna right now is really happy that I am done filming because now she can get on top of the machine. You can see maybe her little feet right there. She's already up under the machine resting on it. She really likes laying on it after I've done some work because the warmth of the machine. Okay, so I'm going to just pick off these little pieces here. That's a piece of little. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this away. Do not need that. That is our finished file 1. I'm going to go ahead and trim these little threads. And there's just some little jump stitches that just need to be trimmed off. And again, I can just use a wet finger and go over the edges to conceal that frayed fuzzy edge from the stabilizer. And it's going to blend right in with this lighter stitching. On the darker stitching that I did on the first one, let me get that again and show you. You can see that white edge of where the tearaway stabilizer was. But with this one, it is a lot harder to see. So that is our first portion for video 2, or video part 2. On the next video, we are going to actually start the stitching on the wallet top. This is the portion of the wallet that is going to take the longest, so it is going to be a longer video. I am going to try to pause the video between sections so we can save some time, so you do not have to sit there and watch all the stitching. I will show you the beginning portions of it and then come back in when a lot of it's completed. Just kind of like pop in every now and then to show you the progress. So at this point, if you guys have any questions, please comment down below. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Give it a thumbs up, and that kind of like helps the YouTube algorithm to share my videos more. In my video before this, when I was doing the update, I did mention to a friend that I will be sharing my Amazon wish list again. I didn't want to have to tell everybody because I didn't want to I guess brag. I don't know how to describe it. Since Christmas, I have become monetized on my YouTube. I don't make a lot on my videos, so that is why I will be sharing my Amazon wish list now. I only make probably $11 a month. That's what I made last month. So it's not a lot of money that I'm making. As I progress through my YouTube and start growing my YouTube more, I will start getting more views and earning more. But right now, it's just a really small amount, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to put the money that I do earn back into the YouTube channel, and I will be saving that money. It's all going into a savings account, so I can purchase a multi-needle machine. So that will be something in the future that will be coming. Yeah, so if you guys would definitely give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. A lot of my viewers, about 85–90%, are not subscribed. So please definitely hit that subscribe button. It really does help me out. And even if you only watch one of my videos every now and then, hit that subscribe button because it really does help. The next video will be part 3. Stay tuned for that, and that will be coming soon. Okay, guys, thank you for sticking around. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.